Yeah, they're obviously had a great year, and there's a couple of personnel changes in their group that have added to their game style. So yeah, there's a few differences there. Obviously, we've got a little bit of familiarity with a few ex-players in that group, but the couple they brought across from Melbourne in the off-season have made a fair difference. So yeah, there's a few things that we need to look at closely to make sure that we're ready.
And obviously their coach, well familiar with too. When was the last time you had a chat to him?
About 5 days ago. So we were watching the scrimmage game on the Saturday morning where non-selected players play. But yeah, they're obviously really happy with their year, and you know that's probably an added little part to this game on the weekend. Knowing the way Daniel wants his teams to play, I guess is nice for us to have the head start from that point of view, but it'll boil down to playing the game on Sunday and things that transpire after the first bounce. We can talk about a whole lot of stuff as to what might happen, but yeah, once we get out there and get going, we'll see what it looks like.
When you watch them play, are there any little things you see where you're like, oh yeah, that's Daniel to a T?
Yeah, well, probably a little bit of his style, but also not dissimilar to us, to be honest. So, we're all cut a little bit from the same cloth in terms of we want to play attacking, attractive footy, and I guess his team's been the epitome of that this year. We'd like to play that as often as we could, and we probably have at points this year. But the other part to our game is we also like to pressure and stifle the opposition a bit too. So, when it comes to finals footy, that pressure and chaos and preventing the opposition from getting their game going is pretty important. So that part of it is something that we've done plenty of times before. We've got a very experienced finals team, so that aspect is something that we're quite strong at and something we'll need to bring to the table.
Is that the crux of slowing them down then? They've been pretty sort of freewheeling and high-scoring team this year.
Yeah, well, yeah, short answer is yes, but we want to get moving as well. So, from a neutral's perspective, I expect it's going to be quick and open and fast. So they'll want to slow us down, we'll want to slow them down. So, that's, as I said, let's see what it looks like after the first 5 or 10 minutes as to what team looks like they're able to do that more often than the other. But it'll be, yeah, I can't imagine it being bogged down and slow and not moving. It'll be an open game, I would have thought.
Are you quite happy with the different parts of your game at the moment, following on from the win on the weekend?
Yeah. Again, when you play, that game at Moorabbin was in two parts really, with the wind or against the wind, and our method into the wind was actually better than it looked statistically. We didn't score a goal into the wind, but we had some very good looks on the way up and some great passages of play up into the breeze. So from that point of view, we've been sort of talking about that a little bit over the last month or so in case we come into a game, we've got to factor that in. Pleasing thing is we rattled on score very quickly when we had the breeze and looked really good, really dangerous, particularly out of stoppage in the middle. So that part of it was really, really pleasing.
So how's Dax been this week? Obviously emotional and with good reason. After last week's game, how's she been throughout the week?
She bounced back really quickly. In fact, she had a pretty good last quarter, given that those events sort of happened during the third quarter. So she's been great, and she's a stoic person and gets on with stuff generally. But these are the sort of things that rock her a little bit, and probably her teammates and coaches as well. To be honest, the good thing is when you go to a game of footy now, these incidents are becoming more and more isolated. So the environment to take your family to the footy is actually as good as it's ever been, to be honest. Like you don't have to sit there with your kids and put up with comments from over the fence that are derogatory towards, or personally derogatory towards an opponent. So that stuff has dropped away considerably. When I think of what going to the footy 10 or 20 years or 30 years ago was like, it's a completely different environment, which is great for all of us.
You say she's stoic, but do you have to double check, triple check to make sure she's okay? rather than just sort of thinking that she's all right?
The comment she received is not something she hasn't heard before, but it doesn't make it any less hurtful. That part of it is, it's those sort of things are sort of eating away at her a little bit, but I think she knows where she stands in terms of the love of her teammates and the people around her and her family and friends. So that part of it is always pretty reassuring, and she's come in here with her usual smile and attitude on Tuesday, and I expect the same tonight.
Last time she played a final, pretty influential. Like, she'd be like on the footy side of things, pretty excited about having another chance to show her wares at the business end.
Yeah, I think all of them are a little bit like that. And Dakota's had a sort of an in and out year. She's missed one with illness and missed one with concussions. So she's had a few little hiccups on the way through. Her partner in crime's topped the goal kicking. So she would like to think that she can make an impact at the back end of the year, which I'm sure her and plenty of others in our group who have sort of had bits and pieces throughout the year are slowly starting to put the whole thing together, and I think some of those will come to the fore as well.
Obviously, yesterday we sort of announced that the grand final will be a night game under lights. So I suppose, firstly, are you a fan of that? I know we've spoken in the past about how the league has to kind of try new things, try different things.
Yep.
And second part, how good would BHA look under lights?
How good would here look?
Yeah, for a grand final.
Oh, here is amazing. Twilight or night time. It's this venue comes up beautifully. Are you asking that question as me as a fan or as a coach?
Whatever will give us the best answer.
Okay.
You take your pick.
Because as a fan of footy, I love it. So, and in fact, if it was men's and women's, I'd be going twilight. That's where I think it could be really good. If you're asking as a coach, do not care at all. Could be 10 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't care like that. I think all of this stuff is of passing interest to us when we're preparing teams, and if you're playing, you're probably in the same boat. But as a fan, which I am as well, I think it's a great move.
Can I just ask you on Bell, write something on it this week, just the influence she has had on your group and how you've seen that grown over the past couple of years?
Bell's what she like embracing the title of leader in the group at such a young age. Taking it upon herself to generate enthusiasm and energy in the group. Those sorts of things have been something that have been like super valuable to our team, but it actually has helped her performance as well. And I think, in a roundabout way, when Emily did leave here and go to Hawthorn, it actually allowed Bell to step into a much more responsible role in the midfield group as she did last year, and that's flowed into this year. We've all known her capabilities as a player, but as a leader now, and having that responsibility every week to get your teammates up and think outside yourself, I think that's the hardest thing. I think young players, when they're finding their way, are sort of more inclined to, am I performing? But she's quickly gone from, I don't care how I'm performing, I just want to make sure everyone else around me is better. That move for such a young player is a big step.
I think speaking on Bell and that enthusiasm she brings, I think I saw from the start of the game last week, I think the camera caught her doing a big double bicep trap flex 15 seconds before the opening bounce, just to get the teammates up and about. When you see stuff like that, it just make you smile as a coach and just be like, yeah, okay, all right, she's...
Well, you get a better view than we do. I mean, we don't necessarily see that stuff close up. I think the TV does a better job than us watching, but we get the feedback when she attacks the first ground ball, for example, or goes after the first opponent that she needs to go and tackle. So that sort of stuff's amazing. That chain of possession from half back through to forward was pushing up into the breeze, and we talked about a different method up into the wind, and she's pulled it off with a bit of run and carry and a bit of give and get on the way through. So that's sort of leadership by example, showing your teammates this is the method and I'm prepared to do it.